All right, we are live.
All right.
And our friend Doug was with us at 6-ish Pacific time, AM, and now 6-ish Pacific time, PM.
Wow.
It's a good man, but he's
That
in
is-
South Dakota, so that would have been, what, 8 a.m.?
Is that 2 hours? Is that
I
Central
think
Time
it's Central, but I could
Okay.
be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Doug, you are very dedicated to the Pastor Paul unconventional conversations.
It's our time when we talk religion and politics and how politics have prostituted religion and how it's destroying people and culture and a whole bunch of other things. So come join us. Thanks, Doug, for the compliment on YouTube. All of you on TikTok, let us know where you're joining from. And Douglas, of course, as always, tells us he's from fascist South Dakota.
Yes. What else are we going to do on a Sunday evening other than talk about religion and politics and how religion is, what did you say, prostituting? Or politics is what did you say?
Religion has prostituted itself
to
politics.
What else are we going to do? Just a little light Sunday evening conversation. We're joining from the West Coast. I see Jamie is here.
From San Jose.
San Jose. And 2.5 hours to our north, our neighbor.
Yeah.
So if you're joining us on TikTok, share with your friends and invite them to come on over because, it's always better when there are more people having this conversation together.
So today, like basically every day in America, we have another mass shooting. Yeah. And we're going to talk about what inspires us, but I don't think we can go without saying, hey, Ted Cruz and his wife are praying for you all, you dead people in Texas. He tweeted about it. They're praying for you. Thank God that Ted and what's Heidi, I think is his wife that Donald Trump called ugly before Ted sold his soul. They're praying for you. So it's good. All you people who were shot in Texas today, it's good to know that Ted and
this is the
Marjorie Taylor are shooting for you
in Texas,
are
right?
Praying for you.
And within the week,
I think 3 in Texas in a very short period of time.
God.
There was also one in Chico, California last night.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, at a party, like a high school party or a college party.
Oh my God.
Thanks, DJ, for the thank you and appreciate you. Jamie has moved over to TikTok to help us mod over there.
Jamie. Appreciate that.
And let us know where you're from, everybody. We always like to connect through place, but I just don't know how people can sleep at night and say, no, everybody needs to be able to get a gun whenever they want one. That's how we're all going to be safe. Yeah. It's clear. We've had more mass shootings in like the first 3 months of this year. What are we at? 5 months, 4 months than like most years in America. But yeah, let's just keep letting people get guns without any reservation.
Yeah, I was really struck by Senator Warnock's comments this week following the shooting in Atlanta. And it just was so powerful what he said. He was like, the reason, people are sitting back thinking like, oh, that's really bad, but it's not going to happen to me. And he's like, that is no longer true. It is just a matter of time before this crisis comes knocking at your door and you're personally impacted by it. And I think that is the truth.
DJ is with us. He says he's from South Carolina, unfortunately. Although we have a friend that lives in South Carolina now, and he says it's very nice.
Well, I guess it depends on where,
Yeah, maybe.
But I've always thought of it. It sounds like there's some really beautiful places. And
Pucky is
cool
with
towns.
us from Minnesota.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome, Pucky.
So, again, I just don't know how somebody like Ted Cruz can claim to be Christian, claim to be pro-life, take NRA money, and sleep at night. And then the people that support people like Ted Cruz and say things like, oh, if more people had guns, we'd be more safe, when there's absolutely no evidence of that by any data anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
It's just a gun fetish is all it is. So yeah. Oh, Anne and Amy are here, my friends from Washington who stopped through Fresno this week, and we got to break bread together, which was amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
And Onesimus is with us from Southern Illinois outside of St. Louis. Gosh, my eyes are getting bad.
That's the problem.
Squeezy is there.
You know, when we first started doing this, I think it was like sort of COVID era, you know, and it was like our way to connect to other human beings around the world. And my eyes were a lot better just 3 years ago. So apologies for the squinting.
So just a bit, we're going to want to hear what inspires you in honor of my sort of new daily, almost daily inspirations I put out called InspireU, that you need to be a subscriber to the website at pastor-paul.com. You can subscribe for free, and you have to sign up on our community channel board. But I try to every day, every other day or so, try to do something that will inspire you. So we want to hear what inspires you. But I guess first we can talk a little bit about the week, and we talked about the shootings. I did a video that I was pretty proud of. Of course, it got no views because for some reason, nobody can see me on any platform right now. My video was about the idea of this. And you tell me, would you consider a father to be a good father that says to his children, everything good that you do, everything good that happens in your life, I get credit for it. And you have to come tell me how great I am because you did something good or you had something good happen to you. If you do something bad or something bad happens to you, I get no blame whatsoever for that. That is on you. And that is a consequence to you for you being born inherently bad. Would that be a good father?
Okay. I'm trying to think of a really dramatic way to answer a very obvious question and say, no. And I'll add, like, I've seen people like that in real life, you know, like
really?
the pain that some parents cause their kids by kind of absorbing like the space when their kids have an accomplishment and sort of making it about them, and then, you know, kind of leaving them on their own if they struggle or stumble or whatever. And I mean, it's just like, not only is it obviously not the heart of God that we read about, the God in the Bible, but it's really damaging if you're like a human dad doing that kind of stuff too, or a human mom. So
yet it is the God that we're taught about in evangelicalism and right-wing Christianity. Every good thing comes from God. He has to be praised and worshiped and glorified for every good thing, even something I do good, because the teaching is I am absolutely incapable of doing good. Only Jesus protecting me from being zapped by lightning can do good somehow through this body. But if I get cancer, or if I'm in a bus wreck and die, God can't be blamed for any of that. That's on me. If 21 people are in a bus and the bus crashes and 20 people die, we have to give glory to that evangelical God for the one person that lived, but blame him not at all, for the 20 that died. Now, that can't be right. Now, a sovereign God in heaven could be that being, but he cannot be a good being. That is a narcissistic, overly jealous, crazy being.
Yeah.
Pucky says, sounds like my mom.
Oh, Pucky.
Sometimes moms like to say, you do some good there. You got that from my DNA. That's from my side of the family, you know. And even though there may be some truth about that, it's still a narcissistic view.
Yeah.
So Justified on TikTok says it's called life. God doesn't control everything. It's free will. Well, then God's not omnipotent. Then you're saying God is not powerful enough to stop the bus from crashing then. And so he deserves no blame for the 20 deaths. But at the same time, then he deserves no credit for the one that lives if God is not in control. So it's a very dissonant belief that says give God all worship. He has to be worshiped for good. And you can do nothing good. So all good comes from God, but everything bad comes from you.
Yeah.
And, and it's always free will, free will, free will. The people on the bus had no free will.
Yeah.
They did
Hey.
not make a decision to die.
Yeah. So, so I know that you like pick at these, like that kind of thinking is very prevalent in the evangelical church. And it's just kind of like, cigarette smoke in a casino. It's just everywhere. Right. And you just get used to it. And so you feel really strongly like you want to like get in there and get up under that like old paint and like chip away at it. Can you talk a little bit more about like why you feel so strongly about like, guys, this has to be revealed. This stuff has to be pulled off. Can you give us more on that?
Good question. Good question. It's because when we're taught this uber bad belief that is not reflected, Jesus said, if you who are fathers on earth who are evil want to give good gifts to your children, how much more does the Father in heaven want to give good gifts to you? So the idea that there is a God that we have to get to like us so that we can be the one to survive in the bus and not one of the 20 that dies creates, and then even just then the original sin theology, the depraved human flesh theology, all of these things create an atmosphere that says, I'm worthless. And boy, God just letting me breathe today is something that I have to worship him for. And it creates just a real shame-based law-giving atmosphere that says, I can never feel good about myself. When the command of Jesus is love God, love your neighbor as yourself, there is an inherent command in there to love yourself. And if we don't love ourselves, if we don't have self-compassion, if we don't think we're worthy of even living, the idea of like, you can't go before God or you'll burn up. Well, then how does anybody get convicted of sin if the Holy Spirit is God? So the theology is bad theology at its you have to stay dissonant to believe it. Yes, you could say, here's a verse that supports it. Here's a verse that supports it. But then when somebody comes and says, hey, you need to have some grace for yourself. Well, I can't. I am depraved flesh, and God chose to do this terrible thing to me. God chose for my child to die because I'm a bad person. It just creates a whole lot of bad self.
And like, again, stating the obvious, but that kind of thinking, and again, it's layered on. It is like lead paint. And I'm going to change my metaphors from cigarette smoke to lead paint in an old house, right? It's like, it's just layered on. It's toxic. And like chipping it away, it's not necessarily that you take joy. Well, actually, maybe you do take a little bit of joy in like poking at the people who work really hard to keep that old paint on the house. But really, you're wanting to expose people to what you think is an authentic connection with the divine and like perfect love for self and others, right? Like there is something on the other side of, we need to do the hard, painful work of peeling back these beliefs, right? I mean, there's a reward for challenging your mindset and your theology in this way, right?
Yeah, and when we teach people that you're worthless and terrible, and you're so lucky that God sent Jesus to get the hell beat out of him on the cross so that you don't have to go to hell. And then you also pair that with the teaching of toxic masculinity that's in the church.
And by the way, toxic femininity, why are we not talking about that? Like, there's toxicity on both sides of the gender.
Well, let's not get into the whataboutism at the moment, but I've seen it quite a bit but yes, women have to deal with a lot of stuff. Where was I going with that? If you teach men, you have to conquer and win and overpower other people, and your value is only in winning and finding a woman who will submit to you and wear extra small t-shirts like Josh Hawley did at the men's event over the weekend. And then you pair that with a you're worthless theology, you're creating an emotionally stunted little boy in an adult male body. And it's why so many Christians are responsible for so many terrible things that happen in our culture, or at least it is a root cause thereof, of telling men, be conquerors, be winners. That's your value. You know, be the head of your household, dominate your wife, dominate your children. And oh, by the way, you're worthless and capable of no good
And
whatsoever.
I don't know my history quite as well as you do, but like that kind of thinking is really kind of a more recent thing, right? In the spectrum of time, like the last 100 years or so, the I don't know, the sort of male dominant, and I don't know, I guess that shows up in a lot of different ways, but in other parts of society in time. But I don't know, I feel like there was a time when you read about people who were more like contemplative and like sort of like they went inward with their spiritual pursuits, as opposed, like, I think that evangelicalism is a particular like hotbed for this kind of stuff to ferment and grow.
And I guess in some ways, it sort of changed in the early 20th century. Christianity really was Jesus focused, social justice focused. Christianity is about helping the poor, the foreigner, the marginalized, and the outcast and the widow.
Mm-hmm.
And it did change. And I think maybe World War II was a part of it. You had the greatest generation say, wait, we beat the, I don't want to say the put down word for people from Japan, but, we beat them, and that shows God's on our side, and we can now go to war against anybody and overcome them for God. And I think there was, males be a man,
Yep.
Don't come whining to me. I had to fight the Germans over at the Battle of the Bulge or whatever. Yep. And I think it did change what masculinity looked like. But that idea of toxic masculinity looked nothing like who Jesus was.
I just saw Pepper's comment on TikTok that Pepper's dad was a real man, that he led with love. And it reminds me of something amazing that I heard a couple days ago, that when you're living in like leading with love, you don't need power.
Yeah.
And I just like, that took me aback. Like, oh my gosh, love is the great unlock for literally every relationship, every circumstance, And then I see David and Wendy Mark's comment on YouTube about this is a very US American kind of Christian dynamic. And I'll just say that for sure seems to be the case. Although I think
we're spreading it overseas, though. We're very good missionaries.
Exactly.
Of our
the Christian nationalism is definitely spreading everywhere. But yeah, I think we are sort of uniquely competent in this.
Yes, we are.
In this area.
Anne and Amy say, I feel like the worthless part. Whoops, we lost him. I feel like the worthless part is to keep people in line and to create a cult mindset. You're worthless. We have the answer. Interesting. Yeah. And Douglas says, well, and that mindset contributes to the incel community, which is also a recent development.
Oh gosh, that's frightening.
I heard a podcast on incels recently.
God. I don't honestly, like, I don't even want to put my mind on that for even a freaking second. It's so weird.
An author embedded herself in the incel community online for 2 years.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called Men Who Hate Women. It's just very scary where we are in America. And in a lot of ways, like we were talking about Ted Cruz and guns, Christianity supports this mindset. It keeps it in place. And when we start to say, hey, maybe we need to think differently about this. When Romans 12:2 says, don't be conformed to the age, but be transformed, be totally changed by the ongoing renewing of your mind so you can know what is good and right. It's really important that we be asking these questions. And you see another video I did, I think I just put it in drafts and haven't put it out yet, that we're taught in, fundamentalism, conservative Christianity, that thinking is dangerous. It could be Satan whispering in your ear. Don't get yourself thinking and asking questions.
I heard that a lot when I was growing up. Like it was this whole idea that if you opened your mind, like that a demon could slip in there.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have any control over it, And so don't ever empty your mind, because what will swoop in and fill it. So, okay. So I guess maybe what, there's two sides to this coin of like what you're putting forward. And the first is like, one side is we have to really challenge, we have to see this stuff. And it's very sneaky and it's very like, just kind of everywhere in the evangelical church. And so you don't realize how much it has eroded. I'll speak for myself. I didn't realize how much it had eroded my ability to, to access God, to access love. I grew up in the evangelical church feeling a just intense need to perform and to be perfect and, say the perfect things and have the perfect Bible memory, verse competition, like all that kind of stuff. And it always felt like if I just did enough stuff, I could maybe step over my sin, my flesh, my shame, my whatever, and have a connection with God. It wasn't until I was 50 years old. So I lived my first 50 years of my life. And as a very young child, at like 4 years old, I had this like deep yearning to have a connection with God. Like I remember it like it was yesterday. And then I spent the next 46 years thinking it had to look a certain way. And I wasn't up to, like, I didn't
You were
pass the
never gonna be
test. I
good
wasn't
enough.
good enough.
Yeah.
And then, so that's one side of the coin, is like peeling back the ways in which we've been trained to think that way. And then the other side is being able to cultivate this like genuine connection with yourself, loving other people, and understanding that that is your connection to God and to the divine. So there's two sides to this coin. And I think when we're together, I always like to bring up the positive one.
Yeah, it's good. And so John 3:17 is one of my favorite verses. It says, God did not send Jesus into the world to condemn the world, but that through Jesus, the world might not, saved is not the right translation there. The word is sozo. It should say that they would be reconciled, body, mind, and soul, in relationship with the divine, as was meant to be at the beginning of the earth. So there is teaching and training. There are voices from our parents, from our church, that tell us, no, you're bad. You can't have a connection with heaven. All you can do is pray and hope that maybe today God will take mercy on you and your children, won't be hurt in a car accident or get injured on the sports field or have a bad test. Please, God, just think enough of me today to let something good happen, even though I'm horrible and dirt and don't believe it. And it's such a terrible belief system. We have to look at ourselves and say, wow, there's something pretty amazing about me. There's something inside of me that really does yearn for goodness and love and purpose. And that is inherently who we are, until that belief of ourselves is beaten out of us by religion and culture and bad teaching.
Okay. So I want to just take a quick pause here and say, what is it? God is Dead, 4201. Atheist says we're still one of his favorite, or this person's favorite spiritual channels. And I know that you feel that as high praise. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
I have Christians all the time say, well, if the atheists like you, then you must be doing something wrong. And I say, well, sinners liked hanging out with Jesus, and religious people hated him for doing it. So if religious people are telling me I'm a sinner for hanging out with God is Dead, then I must be doing something like Jesus did.
Anybody trying to shame Pastor Paul on that point, y'all just like save your breath, because that ain't going nowhere. But I really appreciated the question, because I am not exactly sure. How do you feel about the reconciling between John 10 and John 17? Do you know off the top of your head? John is like one of my favorite books. And I feel like all around there is like, it's Jesus. Oh my gosh. It's such an incredible story about basically the beginning of the public shaming of Jesus that ultimately leads to his crucifixion. And do you know, do you know what he did that made the religious people so angry?
What?
He healed someone on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
That was the beginning. That was the trigger that then led to the religious people wanting to come after him and ultimately publicly shame him. And they, almost stoned him one time. And then ultimately were like, yeah, let's kill this MFer and give us Barabbas. It was because this person, Jesus, was like, hey, I'm about the human being that's in front of me and meeting their needs, not about obeying the religious rules. That's where all that shit started, was Jesus cared for and healed somebody and broke a religious rule. Anyway, so about John 10, John 17, it's like he's coming to Jerusalem for one of the big feasts, and he like it has this intentional like debate in the town square. And like anyway, it's one of my favorite parts of the Bible.
And I mean, maybe it even started at his first sort of sermon in Luke 4, where he states his mission statement, where he quotes Isaiah 61, and he says, "The year of the Lord's favor," and then closes the scroll and doesn't say, and enter the year of the Lord's vengeance. He cut out the Lord's vengeance part of the passage. And so I think, and the people were like, wow, we're hearing something amazing here today. And then all of a sudden murmuring started, and they're like, wait a second, this is Joseph's son.
Yeah.
Who is this guy to like be prophetic? And then they wanted to throw him off a cliff. So, it's just, so I think what God is Dead is asking, John 10 is about, the people are the sheep, I'm the shepherd. There were bad shepherds before, now I'm the right shepherd, I hold the gate. And then John 17 is basically Jesus saying, all authority on heaven and earth I'm now giving to my disciples. I have all authority on heaven and earth. So I'm not sure what the contrast exactly you're asking about there is God is Dead, but I think Jesus, like many Jewish teachers of the day, were constantly saying, my teaching is the way to be connected to God. And if you're going to be a follower of me, you have to follow my teachings. And you're not going to be able to follow my conduit to heaven if you're not following teachings. And so if you followed, Rabbi Bob, you would be a Bobian. And if you followed Rabbi Ted, you would be a Tedian. And if you follow Jesus Christ, you would be a Christian. And what he's saying is,
makes sense.
My followers know my voice, and they're going to obey what I'm telling them to do and how I'm modeling to live.
He was saying like the way I'm showing you is the way to access this connection to this, holy, perfect God the Father. Right. And so my sense is what you're saying. It wasn't so much about Jesus being like, it's about me, like, come on, like me versus Bob, as it was like, no, like lay all that stuff down, man. Like it is actually just about, watch how I connect with this divine experience. And it's about not any of these rules. It is about this, whatever people have been saying, Jesus was a rebel, like stuff like that.
Yeah. Kai says, glad to see you pressing forward, Paul. Keep going. Okay,
hey, cool. Listen.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to also say thanks for pressing forward. It's a pretty lonely journey that you find yourself on, but there are so many encouraging and like inspiring things along the way, and just like so many cool conversations I think are happening, like certainly in our local community.
Yeah.
Social media, etc. But I do want to just take a second and say it means a lot if you would go online and subscribe at pastor-paul.com. You can subscribe for free to the newsletter. But if you're open to a small monthly subscription, I think they start at $5.99 a month. And if enough people provide that kind of support, then it enables Paul to keep doing what he's doing here. So consider that.
And you know what was cool? And I'm starting to see this a little bit more and more, when I stepped out of Christianity. I talked to an old friend who, it was kind of funny because I saw him follow me on TikTok, and I'm like, oh, that's somebody who's still in the evangelical world. I wonder what I'm going to see coming from him. Because I've had good friends like send me messages, that
are very painful.
Like these guys here, you're going to hell, kind of stuff.
You had a little butt pucker when you saw
I was
the
like,
follow?
I wonder what he thinks about all this. And then he reached out to me by text and said, hey, I've been following your stuff. I want to talk. I'm kind of on a similar path now. And so I was talking to him this week, and he said, boy, when you started doing all this stuff, I thought you were completely off your rocker. What the heck happened to Paul? And then he said, you know what? I'm now completely off my rocker. And again, it's that God is good Father. We're terrible people. Nothing good can happen. That started to unravel and say, wait a second, this doesn't seem like a very good way to live. And my friend, who I would never reveal who he is or what his story is, even talked about being self-harming at a couple of points because, we're just told you're worthless. You're nothing. Don't go get help. That emotional help is that's Satan whispering in your ear again, that psychology and all that stuff. But it just meant the world to me. And I think I'm seeing this just drip, drip, drip a little bit more, that there are Christian people who thought the same, Paul, you're off your rocker, who are now starting to say, wait a second,
something is different.
I'm feeling this too.
I want to just mention a couple things that are coming up in TikTok while you were sharing that. Somebody asking if you still do your Bible studies. I think they were talking about the Sunday morning communities
or the Bible talk.
But maybe comment on both. So Sunday morning community is still a thing,
and somebody
right?
was asking about mindfulness moment.
Yeah. You still do.
So Sunday community is still a thing.
Yeah.
I turned that over to some really wonderful people, Lauren and
Lauren and Charity and Bob, right?
Yes.
Bob?
No, Bob's not involved.
Bob's not involved. Okay.
Lauren and Charity are leading it, and I hear it's amazing. Sunday morning is kind of time that I now get to spend with my family, and for 100 years of my life, Sunday morning was a busy time
forever,
and now we get to be together on Sunday morning and having a pleasant moment. I got to sit outside on our back porch in our beautiful Fresno weather today. And I just was like, guys, this is a season I need to have that time. And so I stepped out of Sunday community.
I don't think anybody would question that. I mean, you have done years of literally 7 days a week being in front of a microphone, in front of a screen, talking. So you have to recharge your battery. But then Bible talks, I don't know if you're posting those as consistently.
So all right. So we're going to talk about inspiration, testing our emotional health and all things. I'll just be honest with you guys. It's been a dark month. I've been going through a life journey. I've been in a lot of self-reflection in the last month. I'm doing work with a therapist, and it just has been a month where I'm like, I need to pull back for myself. So, and I haven't communicated it well. I haven't done my job well, but guys, they will come back. The mindfulness moment on Wednesday mornings, Bible talk. What I wanted to do was release a podcast one week, Bible talk the next week, because I was doing too much work and content.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to be really honest with you guys. It's just been a really rough 4 weeks for a whole lot of reasons I won't go down the path to talk about, but just time that I needed to be able to say, you know what, I'm effing up here. I'm not doing what I promised to do to meet with people, but I just can't do it right now. So, and you guys are always gracious to allow for that. And I'm very sorry, but just know, and I'll take all your energy and love that you can send me. It's just been a really dark period of time.
In fact, and I see Rosie just said that they just got home from Millerton.
Oh, Rosie's here.
Which is close to where we live, and good to see Rosie in the comments. If Paul's been on your mind, if he's just fleeting thought, Pastor Paul, oh, that Paul dude, what's up with that guy? There's a reason for that. Pay attention to it. And, any way that you can express support for this community. I know it's like water on a dry sponge. So please don't be shy. Now is the time to just to express support for what Paul does, and also provide your feedback, get involved. I saw somebody make a snarky comment about oh, you're in business, you're making money. You know what? Turns out this is 100% a not we are not making a profit. But it's not ridiculous for Paul to ask for financial support to do what he's this is actually what he does for a living.
Jesus had financial support.
Yeah. Our family is making significant sacrifice to try to create space for these conversations. And we believe that this is such an important season that we could actually turn the corner as a community, as a nation, as a world, that the next 50 years could be better, different, and really impactful in a good way compared to the last 50. And we think we're trying to do that. So, y'all come along and help. And that's what we're up to here.
Our friend Rebecca is here on TikTok, known as Therapize. Good to see you, Rebecca.
Always good to see.
And so it's interesting, as I'm sharing transparently here, you see, the saying today, there is no hate like Christian love. It's such I hate the statement, but it's so freaking true. And you see, somebody saying, so all your knowledge of fantasy fiction hasn't helped you and all these things. And I don't know if those are coming from Christians or atheists or something, but the point of this, guys, is what I'm actually learning in this season of stepping out of fundamentalist right-wing Republican Christianity is, I need to lean into pain. Much of what we do in America, in American culture, and certainly what we do in right-wing Christianity is like, take it to the cross, brother. Just let Jesus handle it. I've actually had Christian people tell me, well, if you just, prayed enough and read the Bible, you wouldn't be doing this. I've realized that it's a season to lean into our pain and our trauma and start to work it through. And so let me be honest with you. When you do that, it's not always a fun journey. It's messy, but life is in the mess. Life is not in avoidance. Life is not in avoiding introspection. Life is not in saying, well, I'm manly by Christian definition, therefore I must be okay. When Jesus showed us himself that he would spend all night getting himself back in alignment. Hebrews 6 says he would cry out all night long because he was hurting and to get himself back in alignment. So anybody that wants to say, well, either your spirituality isn't working or you leaving Christianity isn't, leaving right-wing Christianity isn't working, I say BS to that. I think it's working well, but sometimes the work is very hard and you have to be really intentional about it.
Yep.
And if you guys are just like, well, I'm just chill and things roll off my back, I say BS. There is real pain that you're finding ways to avoid down there. And that's the coaching I do. That's the mentorships I do to work through that stuff and test our kidneys, as it says in Jeremiah.
Okay. So we jumped on here because we also wanted to focus on things that we are finding inspiring these days. So I'm wondering, besides some amazing comments that I've been reading over the last 30 minutes, which have been very inspirational, I'm wondering, like, where are you finding inspiration these days? And that is a question for folks who are joining on TikTok and on YouTube. And it is also a question for you.
Yeah. And remember, if you join on our pastor-paul.com website, even for free, and you sign up on the community board, you can get my InspireU thoughts that come just about every day. And you'll see them on there. I've been inspired by Jonah chapter 2 of the Bible that talks about those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs or the steadfast love that could be theirs. And part of my journey in this dark time has been like, what am I clinging to that has been a mindset that's protected me in the past that I need to let die, to let go of, to have pried from my cold, dead hands so that I can live out of a new paradigm in the new season. Jesus called it not putting new wine into old wineskins, or in Isaiah it says, don't look back to the things of the past, the former things, but look to the new thing that is springing up in the season. And we see it in Christianity, people clinging to their theology, to their old theology. I'll never let this go. But it's time to be thinking about what is a worthless idol that may have been good and helpful in the past, but isn't the best for me to see what is good and right here in the future. And so, by the way, I'm inspired by that.
Because of the way we have set up our shot, your hands look very large on TikTok right now. And
well, you know what they say about big hands.
Oh, good Lord.
As opposed to Donald Trump's little bitty hands.
And I'm really thinking my neck, it's on all the advice on here's how you could have a really great camera angle. Put the camera way above your head and look up. So we are today doing the opposite of that. We're put it down low and let's let people stare at our wrinkles. Anyway, all right, point of privilege, co-moderator here making comments on body parts in the shot. Um,
Douglas says he's inspired by the French who are
Yeah.
protesting in a real way to try to protect their elderly.
And I'm unfamiliar about what's going on. Or do you know what's going on there?
Yeah, they wanted to raise the
that's
retirement age, I think, by 3
Macron
years
was
or
like,
something, and the French people are
were
shutting
like
down the country.
protesting in the
Yeah.
street, and that's intense.
Pucky said she's finding inspiration from Pastor Paul. You've changed my life for real. Thank you, Pucky.
That's amazing.
So cool.
That is, you need to save that, like, for real. Like, don't just turn this off and be like, like, copy that and like post it somewhere and let that feed your spirit. That's great.
So what's been inspiring? Okay. What inspires you?
So, well, first I just want to react to David and Wendy Mark saying the music of Carrie Newcomer, got to check that out, and Daily Reflections of Richard Rohr. I need to get on Richard Rohr's email because I get a lot of,
I know a lot of people love Richard Rohr.
I know, I see a lot of that, and I need to get on there anyway. Okay.
So, and Amy says Zoe Zephyr is now my lock screen because of the work she's doing. That's the Congress legislator,
state legislator
Wyoming.
It's in Montana. Yes. There was a big story in the New York Times today about the 3 family members who have like locked out political power that and that are sort of perpetuating this harm.
And she was shut down from speaking in the legislature because she said, hey, what we're doing here with these anti-trans laws are hurting people. And they shut her down and said she wasn't allowed to speak anymore. This is what Republican politics have come to today. They want to outlaw the Democratic Party in Florida. They want to not allow in Tennessee Democrats to speak on the floor. It's getting really crazy.
Okay. And we're seeing that Anne from Amy and Anne say Derek Webb's new album has been great.
I don't know who that is.
I know too. Now we got to check out both of these. Okay. So, you asked me so I feel like I had 2 conversations this week that were so just like nuggets. You know how sometimes you just connect with a person and you're just like, man, that's light and oxygen to my soul. So one was a friend who I hadn't sat down with in probably over 10 years. And we got reconnected recently through this cool thing we did, a spiritual retreat we did a couple weeks ago. So she and I got to hang out. That was really awesome. And then I was talking to a friend of mine today who moved to the middle part of the country. And she was talking about deconstructing Catholicism. It's just one of those things like, oh my God, we're having such a similar experience, even though we have a very different kind of faith background. And, we are arriving at this place in time and like in the same place. And she shared some cool stuff. So I enjoyed that. I found inspiration there. I saw my therapist Friday. Love going to therapy. That was super inspiring.
So that was the second meeting, was your therapist? You said you had 2 meetings.
My conversation today with my friend and the other who moved, who's the deconstructing Catholic.
Oh, and what was the other one?
Well, so I had 2 conversations, not meetings. Okay. One meeting, one phone conversation, and then I added a third, my therapist.
I see. I was going to say Rebecca shared a book. Let's see, where was it? She said she read a fantastic book called Pure about purity culture and internalized shame from evangelicalism. Yep.
Nice.
And that's what we're talking about. That's why I'm poking at Christianity as Christians. You guys are causing pain to people. You're causing shame, and you're driving people from the story of Jesus, which I think is an amazing story.
Yeah.
And, and it may be what needs to happen, because I do believe that right-wing Christian church is going to disappear in a generation. And maybe that's what's supposed to happen.
I don't even think it's going to be a full generation. Yeah. I'm going to look up this Jesus Hypothesis album right now.
From Derek Webb.
If I just knew my login on Spotify.
I know. It got knocked off on mine on my phone too.
What's going on?
We got to figure that out.
Lordy Jesus. Okay.
I was inspired. There was something else that inspired me this week, and now I can't remember what it was.
Okay. Person, place, or thing.
If I knew, I would tell you, but
I mean, do you remember?
No.
Like a category?
I cannot. If I could, I would remember the thing, I think. I know what it was. So we had a local Lutheran church that held a fundraiser that was a drag show. And I did not go to the show, but I hear the show was fun and beautiful and wonderful. And one of our local city council members was tweeting about how horrible these Lutherans were, how horrible these church people were, how they were sexualizing children. By the way, I saw a great post on Instagram today of, look at all the drag queens who have been molesting people. And every one of them was like, these were the drag queens arrested this week for molesting children. And it was all white Christian men, like one after the other, like police chief, Christian police chief, it was all white Christian men, one after the other, who were all arrested this week in America for abusing children. And the idea that drag queens are doing this.
So you're saying these white Christian men were not in drag. They were just not. White Christian men that were arrested for molesting kids.
It was an irony to say it's not the drag queens that are molesting children. White men, it's you. And statistically, that is a fact. And so this Lutheran church had this event, and our local city councilman, a right-winger, really extremist right-winger, was just putting out terrible stuff about them. And so the church got vandalized. Every window in the church was broken out, and they found a Proud Boys sticker in the church. Now, that doesn't prove that it's the drag queens, or prove that it's the Proud Boys that did it. But it seems very likely, considering the city council member putting out his information and how the Proud Boys respond. And so I was inspired by a vigil that was held at that church last Sunday night, and just seeing all of these people of all shapes and sizes and types coming together in a church with people from many different denominations coming together to say, we will not let hatred and white supremacy stop us from loving people. And I was inspired by that. And I thought, these are my people. And it was so cool.
Okay. Good news. I'm back on Spotify. And they changed their security terms. That's why I have to log on again. But I was listening.
Okay.
And I obviously, talked, you went last Sunday. I didn't go, came home. You were telling me about it. That's kind of been with me all week this week too. I had a friend say to me something that, like, I don't know. I think just on the surface, there's this kind of initial reaction of like, why are you exposing kids to drag, and it seems like a very decent thing to think or say. But I just think it's like, just stop for a second. No one is making anybody take their kids to drag shows.
Right.
These are not shows that are like in public schools and you have to attend. These are like, there's nothing forcing anybody to go to this fundraiser at this Lutheran church, right? So if you don't feel comfortable with your kid being exposed to people in drag, you don't have to go. Now, there are some people who want their kids to go see a drag show and have at an age that the parent feels is appropriate, and is ready to talk to their kids about how people are different, etc., whatever, that the parent is totally in charge of that. Yeah. Right. So,
and I thought the right wing was all about parents' rights.
Yeah. So I guess that I think I understand a parent wanting to say, this is my decision for my kid. Like, I don't think anybody has to be in debate or dispute over that. We are all saying yes to that.
So let me put it in another term that I think about it, because there also is the idea. In fact, you're involved with a local film festival in our town that does films about really cool things happening in our city. And one of the films, I don't know if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, was about drag queen book readings. And so adults who are performers sitting down with children and showing them the beauty of reading. And so some may say, oh, you wouldn't want that to happen in a school, but we have, and I say this with all honor and respect, but some people aren't particularly fond of, say, a soldier or a police officer because they wouldn't want their kids to want to be in those professions, or for any number of reasons. Yet we have police officers or soldiers go to schools and read books or do whatever to sort of say, hey, children, this is a part of our sociology. And I don't believe a drag queen is any different, because it's not a sexualizing thing. Now, it can be if the show is meant to be erotic
Right.
and sexy, and you can do that with non-drag people. You can do that with cis hetero as well. But when these, like in the movie and in your film festival, these drag queens were reading to children, there was nothing sexual about
But
it.
also, it wasn't in a school. It was just
It was not.
just a private arts venue, and people could decide if they wanted to take their kids or not.
But Kirk Cameron was protesting drag queens reading in a library, let's say.
Yeah,
something.
that I think that might happen in Fresno. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and
a public library.
But if any private organization wants to have a drag show, there's no reason that a city council member should be against that, and white supremacists should believe they have the right to destroy that organization because of it.
It's just like, that is the latest, most intense, like, marginalized community group. It is everybody. I mean, it is just rolling downhill and hitting the trans community.
I'm sorry. Your children going to a drag show is not going to, and I'm going to use air quotes on this because it's a terrible thing to say, turn them gay. And if you're worried about that, do some work with your children, So we've let a political ideology and party decide, okay, these are the people we'll demonize today. And good people are easily manipulated by this idea of, like, oh my gosh, if a trans person is in a women's restroom, they're gonna do bad things to little girls.
They're just by definition pedophiles.
And it's just ridiculous. It's totally untrue. And even the idea of, like, oh, it's the mentally disabled who are shooting people. Almost all people who are struggling with mental health issues are nonviolent. Almost all violence that mental health sufferers do in life is to themselves. So we've been given this bill of goods to try to make easy answers for things, and Christians are buying it out of bad theology. And it's just insane. The people I was with, drag, trans, straight, LGBTQ plus, all of the above, were all beautiful. I was just sitting there thinking, how amazing are human beings and how beautiful they are.
Yeah.
And we want to allow politicians to demonize them for political power. It's not only disgusting, it's scary that we can allow people to be demonized and marginalized.
Okay, so we were talking about our inspiration. You were talking about your inspiration last week at a vigil for a Lutheran church that experienced some vandalism because they hosted a drag show. So anyway, and I see Anne making the comment about, same thing about parents' rights with parents being able to take their kids to doctors and other medical professionals, like if their kids are dealing with dysphoria, that, like, people should want parents to be able to make that decision, and nobody should take that away from a parent. That's a really, really scary feeling when you think that some outside entity is coming in to take over your freedom to make decisions that you think are in the best interest of your child. Like, as a parent, that is a frightening feeling. And
and you think about it, when the people who scream the loudest for parents' rights are the ones who are saying, but we'll take this book out of the library or out of the school, so the parents don't have the right now to, have their kids be taught from that book. I have no problem with the school saying, hey, we're going to be teaching from a book that's a little controversial. We want the parents to be aware, blah, blah, blah. But banning books is not helping empower people with rights. And certainly telling parents, you and your doctor do not have the right to come up with a plan to help your child who has gender dysphoria, is a sick proposition.
As a former conservative politician. That just reeks of government intrusion, so.
And it's interesting. Like, I have Christians on my page who will say, 12-year-old kids are walking into the doctor's office and having gender changes. And it's like, dude, that does not happen.
Yeah.
Like, these things are years-long processes. The health insurance company itself makes it that way. The American healthcare system makes it that way. So if you think a 12-year-old walks into a doctor's office and the doctor says, yes, we get to change the gender of another child to build our army against right-wing Christians, you are freaking nuts.
Also, as my therapist pointed out on Friday, and you have pointed out on a number of occasions, if society and our community was like less rigid about gender norms are exactly this or exactly that, and there was more opportunity for people to express and be in their authentic selves and have different aspects of them, etc., like maybe people would not need to have surgery as much. I mean, still their decision if that's something they choose, but maybe there's a way to make room for people.
If we would allow a young biological male to wear a dress, if they want to wear a dress, and not say that is abnormal or something wrong, then maybe there wouldn't be dysphoria in the child. Now, for some, they just know. I am, and we're finding a lot of brain tests are starting to show this to be true, that there are some who are just like, nope, there is a female in here, or there's a male in here that's in the wrong body somehow.
The technology, the brain science will just continue to evolve very rapidly there. So then we'll have, more concrete, understanding and awareness. Anne says it took Amy 9 months before she got her hormones when she was 40.
Yeah. So you don't just walk into a doctor's office and say, change my gender.
I'm not going to comment on how, as a person going through menopause, I'm now, having to wax my beard every day. I'm gonna refrain from making that comment and the difficulty in accessing medical care for that.
They just passed a law. Where did I hear about this? And was it in Missouri, which is my home state? Maybe it wasn't Missouri. Maybe it was Idaho. I don't remember. But basically, they defined in the law a woman as being ovum producing. That was the legal definition in that state. Maybe it was Idaho, of being a woman. So therefore, you're saying a menopausal woman is no longer a biological female menopausal woman, or somebody that's had a hysterectomy is no longer.
I may actually not be. This 50-year-old body may not be.
So, I mean, it's crazy. Dean says, my inspiration is finding others that are like-minded. You have inspired and encouraged me. I feel a little less lonely. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful, Dean. And AccuAnn says same for them. Thank you, guys.
Well, listen, we're coming up on an hour, and I am enjoying this conversation, but I also am looking forward to watching the latest episode of Succession.
Are you guys Succession fans?
Like it drops at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, so we don't have to stay up super late. We can go watch it right now. Yeah. So
would you guys do me a favor? Just go to my website, pastor-paul.com. You can subscribe for free to our newsletter. You can join the community chat board there and share your deconstruction story. I'm revamping this all up. Oh, Daniel O'Connor, our friend is here. And it would just really mean a lot to me and inspire me. And if you're able to support with as little as $5.99 a month, some do more, that would really be helpful and inspire us. Just really trying to figure out how to get this rebooted, trying to write my next book, and see how we build the courses going forward. And so even if you're not able to support financially, just going on, signing up for the newsletter, signing up for the community chat board, posting on there,
sharing with other people too. Helpful. I mean, like it's the most amazing thing that like just a little, like the networks spread very quickly, and a little bit of support, even if you can't, commit to $5.99 a month, just, you know what, share with other, maybe it's somebody else can, and that helps. So we're grateful. We're grateful.
All right. We're
All
going to
right,
watch
everyone.
Succession.
Hey, no spoiler alert. We got to jump off before somebody tells us what happens. But it's great to see all of you, and hello to Barbara Fisk. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Thanks for popping on, and hope your family and you are well. So we do this once a month, the first Sunday of the month, and then also by popular demand. So, if the world gets lit on fire, which I guess actually happens pretty much every day these days, sometimes we jump on extra. In the meantime, you can check out all of Pastor Paul's content on his YouTube channel, TikTok, pastor-paul.com. So let's stay connected.
Yeah. And also, I'll let you know on there when I'm getting back on doing the mindfulness moments and the Bible talk and all.
And by the way, I'm always getting ready for work on Mindfulness Wednesdays, but because it's like 6 a.m. our time. But you do the essential oils, and it smells really good while I'm getting ready. And B, I can hear from upstairs, and it's very, very powerful to start my Wednesday. So I enjoy that.
Very good. Well,
all right, you guys.
Enjoy Succession tonight, and we loved talking to you. Be inspired today.
See you soon.
All right. See you, YouTube.